Hello, and welcome to Historical Humans Reads, where we take primary sources and bring them to your screen. I'm Colum Coleman, and today we are reading from the Decameron by Giovanni Boccaccio. Written in 1351, the Decameron follows a group of 10 men and women who, fleeing the plague, stay at a villa for 10 days, where they agree to tell one another 100 stories to pass the time. Published in the Florentine vernacular, the Decameron is a masterpiece of early Italian prose and has proved just as influential to Italian literature and storytelling as the Canterbury Tales were for the English. However, since its 14th century publication, the Decameron has constantly been rewritten, especially when in translation, in order to limit or eliminate the gay innuendos that permeate the work and serve as a basis for much of its humor. Today, we will be reading Day the second story of the Decameron, by Giovanni Boccaccio, as translated in the 19th century by John Payne. With that, let's begin. The ladies laughed immoderately at Martellino's misfortunes, narrated by Nephile, as did also the young men, and especially Philostrato, whom, for that he sat next to Nephile, the queen bade follow her in storytelling. Accordingly, he began without delay. Fair ladies, needs must I tell you a story of things Catholic, in part mingled with misadventures and love matters, which belike will not be other than profitable to hear, especially to those who are wayfarers in the perilous lands of love, wherein whoso hath not said Saint Julian his paternoster is oftentimes ill lodged, for all he have a good bed. In the days, then, of the Marquis Azzo of Ferrara, there came a merchant called Rinaldo de Osti to Bologna on his occasions, which, having dispatched and returned homeward, it chanced that, as he issued forth of Ferrara and rode towards Verona, he fell in with certain folk who seemed merchants, but were in truth highwaymen and men of lewd life and condition, with whom he unwarily joined company and entered into discourse. They, seeing him to be a merchant and judging him to have moneys about him, took counsel together to rob him at the first opportunity that should offer. Wherefore, that he might take no suspicion, they went devising with him, like decent, peaceable folk, of things honest and seemly and of loyalty, ordering themselves toward him, in so far as they knew and could, with respect and complaisance, so that he deemed himself in great luck to have met them, for that he was alone with a serving man of his on horseback. Thus faring on, and passing from one thing to another, as it chanceth in discourse, they presently fell to talking of the orisons that men offer up to God. And one of the highwaymen, who were 3 in number, said to Rinaldo, "And you, fair sir, what orison do you use to say on a journey?" Whereto he answered, "Sooth to say, I am but a plain man, and little versed in these matters, and have few orisons in hand. I live after the old fashion, and let a couple of shillings pass for 24 pence. Nevertheless, I have still been wont, when on a journey, to say of a morning what time I come forth of the inn, a pater and an ave, for the soul of Saint Julian's father and mother, after which I pray God and the saint grant me a good lodging for the ensuing night." Many a time in my day have I, in the course of my journeyings, been in great perils, from all which I have escaped, and have still found myself at night, to boot, in a place of safety, and well lodged. Wherefore I firmly believe that St. Julian, in whose honor I say it, hath gotten me this favor of God, nor meseemeth should I fare well by day, nor come to good harborage by night, except I had said it in the morning. And did you say it this morning? Asked he who had put the question to him. Ay, did I, answered Rinaldo. Whereupon quoth the other in himself, knowing well how the thing was to go, may it stand in thee stead, for an no hindrance betide us, methinketh thou art even like to lodge ill. Then to Rinaldo, I likewise, quoth he, have travelled much, and have never said this orison, albeit I have heard it greatly commended. Nor ever hath it befallen me to lodge other than well, and this evening maybe you should chance to see which will lodge the better, you who have said it, or I who have not. True, I use, instead thereof, the de repulsiti, or the intermerata, or the de profundis, the which, according to that which a grandmother of mine used to tell me, are of singular virtue. Discoursing thus of various matters and faring on their way, on the look out the while for a time and place apt unto their knavish purpose, they came, late in the day, to a place a little beyond Castel Guglielmo, where, at the fording of a river, the three rogues, seeing the hour advanced and the spot solitary and close shut in, fell upon Rinaldo and robbed him of money, clothes, and horse. Then, leaving him afoot and in his shirt, they departed, saying, Go see if thy St. Julian will give thee a good lodging this night, even as ours will assuredly do for us. And passing the stream, they went their ways. Rinaldo's servant, seeing him attacked, like a cowardly knave as he was, did naught to help him, but turning his horse's head, never drew the bridle till he came to Castel Guglielmo, and entering the town, took up his lodging there, without giving himself further concern. Rinaldo, left in his shirt and barefoot, it being very cold and snowing hard, knew not what to do, and seeing the night already at hand, looked about him, trembling and chattering the while with his teeth, if there were any shelter to be seen there nigh, where he might pass the night, so he should not perish of the cold. But seeing none, for that a little before there had been war in those parts, and everything had been burnt, set off at a run, spurred by the cold, towards Castel Guglielmo, knowing not withal if his servant were fled thither or otherwise, and thinking that, so he might but avail to enter therein, God would send him some relief. But darkness overtook him near a mile from the town, wherefore he arrived there so late that, the gates being shut and the drawbridges raised, he could get no admission. Thereupon, despairing and disconsolate, he looked about, weeping, for a place where he might shelter, so at the least it should not snow upon him, and chancing to espy a house that projected somewhat beyond the walls of the town, he determined to go bide thereunder till day. Accordingly, betaking himself thither, he found there a door, albeit it was shut, and gathering at the foot thereof somewhat of straw that was there nigh, he lay himself down there, tristful and woe-begone, complaining sore to St. Julian, and saying that this was not of the faith he had in him. However, the saint had not lost sight of him, and was not long in providing him with a good lodging. There was in the town a widow lady, as fair of favor as any woman living, whom the Marquis Azo loved as his life, and there kept at his disposition. and she abode in that same house, beneath the protection whereof Rinaldo had taken shelter. Now, as chance would have it, the Marquis had come to town that day, thinking to lie the night with her, and have privily let make ready in her house a bath and sumptuous supper, everything being ready, and naught awaited by the lady but the coming of the Marquis. It chanced that there came a serving man to the gate, who brought him news, which obliged him to take his horse forthright, whereof, sending to tell his mistress not to expect him, he departed in haste. The lady, somewhat disconsolate at this, knowing not what to do, determined to enter the bath prepared for the Marquis, and, after sup, go to bed. Accordingly, she entered the bath, which was near the door, against which the wretched merchant was crouched, and without the city wall. Wherefore, being therein, she heard the weeping and trembling kept up by Rinaldo, who seemed as he were grown a stork, and, calling her maid, said to her, Go up and look over the wall, who is at the postern foot, and what he doth there. The maid went thither, and, aided by the clearness of the air, saw Rinaldo in his shirt and barefoot, sitting there, as hath been said, and trembling sore. Whereupon she asked him who he was. He told her, as briefest as he might, who he was and how and why he was there, trembling the while on such wise that he could scarce form the words, and after fell to beseeching her piteously not to leave him there all night to perish of cold, but to succor him, and, it might be. The maid was moved to pity him, and returning to her mistress, told her all. The lady, on likewise, taking compassion on him, and remembering that she had the key to the door aforesaid, which served whiles for the privy entrances of the Marquis, said, Go softly and open to him. Here is the supper, and none to eat it, and we have commodity enough for his lodging. The maid, having greatly commended her mistress for her humanity, went and, opening to Rinaldo, brought him in, whereupon the lady, seeing him well nigh palsied with cold, said to him, Quick, good man, enter this bath, which is yet warm. Rinaldo, without awaiting further invitation, gladly obeyed, and was so recomforted with the warmth of the bath that him seemed he was come back from death to life. The lady let fetch him a suit of clothes that had pertained to her husband, then lately dead, which, when he had donned, they seemed made to his measure. And whilst awaiting that she would command him, he fell thanking God and St. Julian, for they had delivered him from the scurvy night he had in prospect, and had, as he deemed, brought him to good harborage. Presently the lady, being somewhat rested, let make a great fire in her dining hall, and betaking herself thither, asked how it was in the poor man. Whereto the maid answered, Madam, he hath clad himself and is quite a handsome man, and appeareth a person of good condition and very well mannered. Quoth the lady, Go call him, and bid him come to the fire and sup, for I know he is fasting. Accordingly, Rinaldo entered the hall, and, seeing the gentlewoman, who appeared to him a lady of quality, saluted her respectfully, and rendered her the best thanks in his power for the kindness done him. The lady, having seen and heard him, and finding him even as her maid had said, received him graciously, and, making him sit familiarly with her by the fire, questioned him of the chance that had brought him thither, whereupon he related everything to her in order. Now, she had heard somewhat of this at the time of his servant's coming into town, wherefore she gave entire belief to him, and told him in turn what she knew of his servant, and how he might lightly find him again on the morrow. Then, the table being laid, Rinaldo, at the lady's insistence, washed his hands and sat down with her to supper. Now, he was tall of his person, and comely, and pleasant of favor, and very engaging and agreeable of manners, and a man in the prime of life. wherefore the lady had several times cast her eyes on him, and found him much to her liking, and her desires being already aroused for the Marquis, who was to have come to lie with her, she had taken a mind to him. Accordingly, after the supper, when as they were risen from the table, she took counsel with her maid whether her seemed she would do well, the Marquis having left her in the lurch, to use the good which fortune had sent her. The maid, seeing her mistress drift, encouraged her as best she might ensue it. Whereupon the lady, returning to the fireside where she had left Rinaldo alone, fell to gazing amorously upon him, and said to him, "How now, Rinaldo? Why bide you thus melancholy? Think you, you cannot be requited the loss of a horse, and of some small matter of clothes? Take comfort and be of good cheer. You are in your own house. Nay, I will even tell you more, that seeing you with those clothes on your back, which were my late husband's, and me seeming you were himself, there hath taken me belike 100 times tonight a longing to embrace you and to kiss you. But that I feared to displease you, I had certainly done it." Rinaldo, who was no simpleton, hearing these words and seeing the lady's eyes sparkle, advanced towards her with open arms, saying, "Madam, considering that I owe it to you to say that I am now alive, and having regard to that from which you delivered me, it were great unmannerliness in me that I did not study to everything that might be agreeable to you. Wherefore, do you embrace me and kiss me to your heart's content? I will kiss you and clip you more than willingly." There needed no more words. The lady, who was all afire with amorous longing, straightway threw herself into his arms, and after she had strained him desirefully to her bosom, and bussed him with 1,000 times, and had of him been kissed as often, they went off to her chamber, and there, without delay, betaking themselves to bed, they fully and many a time before the day should come, satisfied their desires of one another. When as the day began to appear, they arose, it being her pleasure, so the thing might not be suspected of any, and she, having given him some sorry clothes and a purse full of money, and shown him how he should go about to enter the town and find his servant, put him forth at the postern whereby he had entered, praying him to keep the matter secret. As soon as it was broad day and the gates were opened, he entered the town, feigning to come from afar, and found his servant. Therewithal he donned the clothes that were in the saddlebags, and was about to mount the man's horse and depart, when, as by a miracle, it befell the 3 highwaymen who had robbed him overnight, having been a little after taken for some other misdeed they committed, were brought into the town, and on their confession, his horse and clothes and money were restored to him. Nor did he lose aught save a pair of garters, which the robbers knew not what they had done. Rinaldo accordingly gave thanks to God and St. Julian, and taking horse, returned home, safe and sound, leaving the 3 rogues to go kick on the morrow against the wind. This has been an excerpt from the Decameron on Historical Humans Reads. If you enjoyed this video and would like to hear more excerpts from original texts, please subscribe to be notified of the next one. If there is a work you would like to hear, be sure to like the video and leave a comment listing it below. Thank you for listening.